Talk about what the Giants didn't do this year, some of their moves maybe that they're going to be making, a tough season, and we'll get into the Super Bowl itself with their starting linebacker, Devon Kennard, kind enough to join me on the Boardwalk Honda hotline. And, of course, he's calling us courtesy of the popular football MVP Drive Robotic Tackling Dummy. We'll talk a little bit about that. But, Devon, good to talk with you, my friend. How you been?
I'm great, man. I'm here in Minneapolis on Radio Road now, and I'm excited to be here and with the MVP drive.
Well, we'll get into that in a couple moments, and you just mentioned you're on Radio Road. It's a huge week, and listen, you go back and you look at the season for the Giants. I mean, let's be honest here. Was it a humbling season for you guys with all the expectations going in? A lot of people had you had the sexy pick, winning the NFC East, making a playoff push, maybe being contenders to represent the NFC out of the Super Bowl. Somewhat of a humbling year for you guys.
Oh, absolutely. We thought that we would be the ones that are in, Philadelphia's position right now, and obviously it went way wrong, and that's not where we're at, and it was difficult. It was a hard season when you have such high expectations, and we fell so short.
It was interesting, too, because you look at what you guys did 2 years ago when you get to the playoffs and you lose to the Packers, spend a lot of money on that defense, and last year you had a bunch of injuries, somewhat of the inconsistent play from the defense. Do you guys look at, this season that just transpired and then going into next season where we're going to have a little more of a chip on our shoulder, but it's going to be businesslike because now new head coach, new GM, new defensive coordinator. So basically a new regime.
Yeah, I think next year it's going to be a start fresh situation, but I'm not sure if I'll be there. I'm headed into free agency, and so that's another unknown factor, and a decision that the coaching staff and the new GM is going to have to make.
Listen, I think they'd be foolish not to retain you. You, Pugh, Rich Berg, Orleans Darkwa, I think they would be top priorities. And here's another thing, though. Going into a season as a free agent, is it kind of tough because now there's a new head coach, a new defensive coordinator, so now they're going to watch film. So all the stuff that happened during the season when guys were, quote-unquote, giving up on some plays and guys were getting benched and guys were getting suspended for games. Now you got Gettleman, now you got Shermer, now you have the new defensive coordinator that's going to be looking film. Basically, when you got James Betcher, the new DC, the new defensive coordinator, your resume is your film. They'll see what you were doing this year or what you weren't doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna have to answer to that. What you did or what you didn't do from last season. But I also assume that the coaches are going to come in and look. Last year was last year. That was that coaching staff. That was that defense, offense. We're going to give people a fresh start. But I think they're going to set the tone early on that. They're not going to be accepting some of the things that transpired last year.
You want to be back with the Giants?
I would love to be back. They're the organization that drafted me. I want to finish what I started with them, but business got to take care of business. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's talk switching up from the 4-3 to 3-4, and the beauty of a 3-4, you can kind of move guys around. A little more activity from the linebackers as well. You're more in attack mode. You played the Eagles.
Yeah, I think I fit really well into that scheme with Becker. So that would be exciting, but we'll see.
Yeah. It could be the switch defensively that you guys need and again, open up the doors for you to return. You obviously played the Eagles twice. You play them every year in the NFC East. And I really thought that first game when Elliott hits the field goal to end it, the long one, dramatic win for the Eagles. I thought that was their turning point of the season. Tough loss for you guys. Even the second time around, both games came down to the last play. What is it about the Eagles' offense that it makes it a little frustrating or tough to defend against?
Well, especially the first time around, it was Carson Wentz. He was back there being Houdini and made some plays that really put them over the top and allowed them to edge out the win. But then the second time around with Nick Foles, they just have a good roster around them, and they were able to adapt their offense in a way to where it fit him and what his strengths were. And I think that's why they've had success even once Wentz went down.
When you look at the run that they made and now taking on New England, and listen, you can run a little bit on New England. Obviously, guys didn't play, but you can run a little bit on New England. The Eagles are a good rushing team. You add Ajayi in the mix, and now you've got a couple different bruising backs. You know, as a linebacker, that can be a matchup that maybe Philadelphia wants to exploit against New England because they've had a difficult time at times stopping the run.
Oh yeah, you know, I think I wouldn't be surprised if they try to set the tone running the ball. But one thing, the Patriots have been playing really good defense over the end of the season and in the playoffs. So, you know, it's what have you done for me lately? And I know earlier in the year they weren't playing that good of defense, but, you know, the last few games of the year and into the playoffs, the games I've been watching, they're playing good defense. So, you know, I think New England defensively are going to be coming in hot and confident. But if Philly can come in running the ball, it's going to be advantageous for them.
Listen, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but you look at this game. You know, it's interesting because obviously the Giants don't want to see the Eagles win a Super Bowl, right? But then, you know, the history of the Giants with the Patriots having being the only team to beat them twice. Not that you have a dog in the fight, but are you leaning in one direction?
I'm not necessarily like going for either team, but I'm not willing to bet against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick.
Yeah, that's the diplomatic answer.
Right.
Let me ask you something. Yesterday it was announced about the Thursday Night Football. It's obviously not going anywhere. You know, as a player, do you like the Thursday night game?
No, to be honest, that's the worst thing about you know, football. That Thursday night game is rough. You know, you play on Sunday night. And then you're back at work and you got to play again in 3 days. It's tough. It's tough, and I wish they would take it out. But like you said, it's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. So something we just got to deal with. And
then how about the move yesterday? Kansas City trading Alex Smith to Washington in the NFC East, and I'll tell you, Alex Smith got paid. He's going to get paid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Alex Smith is glad to go somewhere where it looks like they're going to really appreciate and value what he brings to the table. And I think that speaks to Kansas City. They must really believe in Patrick
Mahomes,
the young quarterback. Yeah, and what they think he could do. So they must really be planning on, you know, going with him moving forward.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Your father played in the NFL, right?
Yeah, my dad played 11 years.
He played with Dallas. He won a Super Bowl.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. So, I mean, it's probably last couple of years, it's always bragging rights. I mean, that's got to be tough, right? Who does he root for when the Giants play the Cowboys?
Well, you know, this past season they had the best. They edged us out, but the year before we won both. So
yep.
we always kind of go back and forth. My dad always says, once I retire, if I don't win a ring with the Giants, then he's still a Cowboys fan.
Okay, tell me
by
the way, that's a typical Cowboys fan, right? You tell him, front runner. Tell me what you're doing now with the Rogers Athletics set. They're going to unveil the new MVP Youth Drive at Radio Row this week, where you're at right now. Talk a little bit about that.
Man, it's a great device. It provides kids with the opportunity to learn how to tackle without actually having to hit each other. And I think that's really important, you know, not only for kids, but even in the NFL. I think every football field should have an MVP drive in it. And, you know, it's something I truly believe in because you have an opportunity to tackle something and work on your tackling without having to deal with the contact to contact. And, you know, they've done a lot of studies at Dartmouth, and there was a 60% decrease in concussions and 80% decrease in injuries. So wow. Think about that on a large scale on every football field. And instead of guys hitting each other, they're getting live reps hitting a dummy. So they're protecting themselves, but still getting a realistic look because this thing could move, and it moves fast, and it's agile, and it can juke you, and it can do all sorts of things that is more realistic. I've never appreciated like doing tackling drills where I'm tackling something that's stagnant.
Right.
It's like, look, when I'm at practice, Odell Beckham's never stagnant. You know, I need something that's move. I need something realistic, and I think this is the answer.
Let me ask you this in closing, and I know we're a little tight. You said you want to come back with the Giants. You saw the year that you guys just went through. You still got a veteran quarterback, Super Bowl champ, arguably Hall of Famer. You still have prolific offensive weapons. You got to get through some of those injuries. You know, if everything fell back into place, do you look at the Giants going into next year, go on the caveat that you're back with them, that this is a playoff team?
Oh yeah, I think the Giants are going to be dangerous. Like I think the talent we had, even if you look at the year, there's a lot of losses that we shouldn't have took. There's a lot of bad things going on, and you know, you bring a new coach in with new coordinators and a new scheme, and I really think sky's the limit. But I've learned, you know, you can't, whatever it looks like on paper, that doesn't matter. Guys got to go out there and play.
Yeah, you're right. And you mentioned some of those fourth quarter losses. The year prior to that, when you guys made when you made the playoffs, you were closing out games in the fourth quarter. And last year, you know, sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. You get the injuries, and you know those fourth quarter losses, they can be crippling to a team.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, listen, go have fun. Good luck with everything you're doing. Good luck going forward in free agency. Have fun at Radio Row, and good stuff there with the Rogers Athletics said. It's good because now you're teaching youth, right? They get an understanding of how to properly tackle, especially going forward, you know, to Pop Warner, to high school, to college, and it's always about the player safety.
Absolutely. Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it, Devon. Be well, pal. Appreciate a couple moments. Devon Kennard, starting linebacker of the Giants, pending free agent, by the way, down in Radio Row in Minneapolis. Good stuff with him. He's a good player. Listen, I think the Giants should definitely listen. It would be a smart move to re-sign him.